Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by
Clean water is one of our most valuable resources. Conserving it should be all of our responsibility. Remember every day to make every drop count. Wash full loads, take shorter showers, turn off your faucet. Water, use it wisely. Let's commit to conserve.
and by SciComm Technologies, celebrating 20 years in IT. SciComm is dedicated to helping customers stay on top of the tech wave, whatever comes next. Online at scicommtech.com. Back again for another action-packed episode, but time is running out to catch the Flying Squirrels in 2016. Jay and Greg break it down and try to figure out what the team goals are for the final 20-plus games of the season. The league's hottest hitter, Duggar, drops by the studio. Plus, we find out how the Squirrels beer, Chin Music, is made with Center of the Universe Brewing. It's the dog days of summer, but these guys don't mind. To kick off the party today, here's your host, Jay Burnham.
That's right, the dog days of summer are here, but we are not slowing down. Welcome back to Flying Squirrels Insider. Very excited about this week's show, the penultimate show of the 2016 season. Before we dive into what we're going to talk about here at the desk, I'd like to remind you that Utility Buddy from the City of Richmond Department of Public Utilities makes us aware of Richmond's natural gas safety program. If you cook or heat with natural gas, then you live near a natural gas pipeline. If you expose or cause damage to a pipeline, no matter how minor it might seem, call 646-7000. Also, once again, if you want to win free stuff, my man Greg Caserta here will send it to you. All you have to do is scratch off the win. Text FSI to 63975. Mobile marketing services provided by Opt-in Technologies. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase necessary. That's FSI to 63975. With that said, I'll bring in the aforementioned Mr. Caserta. And Greg, welcome back. Squirrels on the field in a little bit of a lull. How do they finish out the 2016 season with a bang?
We're hoping positively. I think we've been waiting for it all along. We have talked about certain benchmarks and certain numbers that they might be able to attain, and I think with 40 games left, we set a pretty lofty goal of 25-15. Now, that's not going to be the finish, but I think the key is you have to put the first week of August behind you, get ready for the final 27, 28 games that are coming up, and hope that things gel, because you'd like to go into the offseason with some momentum.
On this week's homestand, the Flying Squirrels are taking on the Trenton Thunder. Things have not gone Richmond's way, but they're facing one of the best teams in minor league baseball. The Eastern League divisional standings shape up, as you can see behind us. Trenton and Reading at the top of the East. The Squirrels obviously in the West, but the Squirrels have had to face this year not only two of the best teams in the league, but also in all of minor league baseball stacked up in that division.
We're getting a clear picture now of both divisions. You're seeing, as Jay said, Trenton and Reading. And what we talked about on the air the other night is that you're getting the contrasting styles, which are going to be fascinating in the Eastern League playoffs. With Trenton, you have the best pitching staff in the Eastern League. Bobby Mitchell has done an amazing job with this team despite some losses, and with the trade deadline now passed, the Yankees really beefed up the farm system, and that has helped immensely. And then with Reading, you have the offense led by Rhys Hoskins and Dylan Cousins. Two contrasting styles. They're going to meet in the first round.
Reading has not one but two players that Greg just mentioned with over 30 home runs and 100 runs batted in apiece. It is insane out there in Reading, PA. In the Western Division, where the Squirrels sit, not a playoff season for Richmond, unfortunately. Altoona and Harrisburg are looking to go to the postseason. With that said, the Squirrels still have a ton of talent on the field, and we're going to be joined by one of those players today in studio, Stephen Duggar. Duggar doing something this past week that no other Squirrels player had done over the first 7 years.
That's certainly true, and I don't know if Stephen rubbed Howard's rock at Clemson before he came down from San Jose, and you've seen what he's been able to do at the top of the order. Before we get into the offense, the defense for Stephen in center field has been really strong. He's got a plus arm, he covers a lot of ground, and he's a very good jumper and a good breaker on balls hit to him. But at the top of the order, I mean, the 19-game hitting streak is a franchise record, and then you factor in all the multi-hit games during that stretch. He did it, and he did it in bunches, and he did it consistently.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a hit in every game. It's another to have two or three in Duggar's case, just eclipsing Juan Perez from 2012, also a big leaguer, by the way. All right, we've talked a lot about about the newer additions for the Flying Squirrels over the past couple of shows. One guy I want to discuss a little bit more in depth is Chris Shaw, first-round pick out of Boston College a year ago. Had the immediate impact for the Flying Squirrels, then hit a little bit of a lull, but it looks like Shaw was able to readjust to Eastern League pitching.
I think his growth has been fascinating. I think what has happened to Shaw is kind of what you'd expect from a first-round pick, in that, as Jay said, first week, he's getting used to Eastern League pitching, and he just comes out swinging, and he put together an amazing first week. Hit a lull of about 2 to 3 weeks there where you could tell that he was pressing a little bit. I think that the way they were pitching him, you're seeing that off speed away, and now he's starting to go the other way, and he suddenly has 4 triples, which leads this team. And for a big guy with a lot of power, you'll sign up for that any day.
A couple of home runs as well for Shaw, and to your point, yeah, the ability to figure out what the opposition is doing to you successfully and being able to counter that at such a young age, very impressive for Shaw. Now, on the other end of the totem pole is the experience for the Flying Squirrels, and that's Steve LaRue. By the way, the Squirrels below 20 games under 500, but the pitching staff has been solid. LaRue not only behind the plate working with these young pitchers, but also at the plate. Steve has been able to get on base.
They have a tool that's measured by Baseball America. I don't know how they came up with this, but it's called Best Strike Zone Discipline. And each organization gets one at the minor league level. And Steve LaRue's not going to get that for the Giants, but he could certainly finish in the running, because you're the one that pointed it out. What has led to his turnaround at the plate has been his eye. He's not chasing pitches. You have to make a perfect pitch to Steve LaRue, and lately when pitchers have, he's hitting it, and he's hitting it hard.
Still a lot of excitement at the ballpark to come the final 21, 22 games of the year.
Got plenty left.
All right, Greg, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
I'm excited about this next piece, by the way, because we go to Center of the Universe Brewing up in Ashland, Virginia, a passion of mine, craft beer, and we find out exactly how that malty beverage is made. It's Chin Music, and it's here on FSI. Well, there's no secret that the Flying Squirrels are all about baseball, affordable family fun and entertainment at the Diamond. But what would a baseball game be to the adults without that refreshing drink, beer? I'm here at Center of the Universe, also known as Co2 in Ashland, Virginia, where beer and baseball come together. A couple of years ago, in the Flying Squirrels' 5th season of existence, Richmond teamed up with Chris Ray and his brother Phil here at Center of the Universe to come up with a product known as Chin Music. You might have enjoyed it at the ballpark. We're here today, and I caught up earlier on with Chris and company to find out exactly how Chin Music is made. Let's see if we can get a fresh taste off their canning line. Chris, tell us a little bit about your baseball background and your beer background.
Well, I went to William & Mary for college, played baseball there, and then ended up getting drafted in 2003 to the Baltimore Orioles. Spent my time in the big leagues there from 2005 to 2009, and then afterwards bounced around to Texas, San Francisco, and Seattle.
Closing out games in the major leagues. How do you develop a love for craft beer, and how did you get to Center of the Universe?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit stressful closing out games out there, so it's nice after the game to have a couple cold beers. And after getting tired of paying for them, I decided, why don't I try my hand at brewing my own?
What is the name Center of the Universe Co2?
So Center of the Universe, we kind of borrowed from Ashland, Virginia. That's where I live. What we kind of consider the Center of the Universe is where you live, taking care of the people around you, realizing where you are and what your actions do to affect others. So the center of our universe is where we're located and where our beer reaches.
So you team up with Parney, us at the Richmond Flying Squirrels. Poof, Chin Music is born. What is Chin Music?
So Chin Music, well, the beer is an amber lager, really nice, easy drinking beer. But the term Chin Music is the notion that when a pitcher throws a ball right underneath the batter's chin, whether it's to send a message, whether it's to back the hitter off the plate.
Did you ever throw a little Chin Music in your day?
I might have.
I can look at the I can look at the archives. All right, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
So the Chin Music itself, an amber lager, Tang German hops. Can you explain a little bit about what it is and what its the goal is essentially as a beer?
The Vienna lager is the type of style that the beer is, and we wanted to brew a beer that had the craft flavors, so you get a little bit of caramel, you get a little bit of sweetness, some breadiness, but also was real approachable. So it's only 5% alcohol. It's kind of a beer that everybody can drink, and it's not going to have any kind of upsetting or off-putting flavors to it. So we wanted everyone to be able to enjoy some Chin Music.
Crisp, clean, a beer that you can drink at the stadium on a hot summer afternoon.
Definitely.
Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between lager beers, which is what a chin music is, and some of the other beers and just beers in general that are ales, not lagers?
Basically, it's talking about the yeast that's used. So an ale yeast is a top fermenting yeast. It ferments a little bit warmer temperatures, and it injects a lot more of the flavors into the beer, whereas a lager is made to really accentuate the type of malts that are being used, the hops, and it's a real clean, crisp type of yeast strain. And then the term lagering is basically cold conditioning. So after the beer is brewed and it's fermented, we leave it in a tank and we cold condition it for a while and let it get real smooth and easy to drink.
Lagers take longer to brew, so sometimes you don't see some of the smaller breweries really use lagers because they just take up more space.
Sure, yeah, it takes.
So how much space is chin music taking up here at Kotu?
Takes up some big tanks. It takes up some big tanks, but in the end, I mean, sometimes having a lager is nice. It's nice to be able to drink something where it's refreshing, it bounces off the palate, and you're ready for another one.
I agree. Let's take a look at how it's made. This is the equivalent for me and many others entering Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Behind me is where the magic happens. Let's take a look. The birth of chin music begins with the grains. The grains are first malted, that is roasted or kilned, much like your favorite coffee beans, and delivered to the brewery on site. Different grains provide different types of flavors and body for the beer. Chin music uses 4 different types of malted barleys in the process. Once the grains have been selected, they're sent into the grist mill for crushing. This allows for easier access to the sugars and starches inside the grain. After the grain has been milled, it's added to the mash tun for a process known as mashing. Hot water, as hot as 175 degrees, is then added to the grain in an effort to convert the grain starches into sugars. After about an hour's time, the starches have been converted, and the liquid created is a sweet, sticky substance known as wort. The mash temperature is then raised over 200 degrees to stop the enzymes from converting any farther, a process known as mashing out. The new liquid created, the wort, is then transferred into a large boiling kettle, leaving behind the husks and spent grain in the mash tun. Don't worry, this grain does not go to waste, as most brewers donate the grains to local farmers for livestock. Once added to the kettle, the wort is brought to a boil for a period of 60 to 120 minutes, pending on the type of beer. This is where the hops and other ingredients are added to flavor and level out the wort. Once the hops have been added and the boil is complete, the wort is then chilled or cold crashed down to a specific temperature and transferred once again, this time into the conical shaped vessels known as the fermenter. Once in the fermenter, the liquid is converted into beer as the microorganism yeast is added or pitched in. The yeast gets to work immediately eating the sugars that were created during the mash. As they consume the sugar, the yeast expels carbon dioxide and alcohol, as well as a variety of flavor compounds that vary greatly depending on several variables such as the specific strain of yeast and fermentation temperature of the beer. After the fermentation process, the yeast eats the sugars and then fall to the bottom of the tank, becoming dormant, but still alive to be used in the next batch. One final step remains as the beer is transferred once again into the conditioning tank to clean and finish the product. After the conditioning tank, it's either bottled or, in Chin Music's case, canned, which you can see is a pretty neat process in and of itself. All of that work, Chris Ray, for this.
There you go.
A lot goes into it.
Yes, sir.
Shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Cheers. Refreshing.
Tasty.
Welcome back inside the set of Flying Squirrels insider Wes McElroy as the Flying Squirrels continue their homestand. And one guy who you've seen at a homestand here since he got the call up on June 30th, he's been red hot. Stephen Duggar, kind enough to be with us here on the set, on the field. And I understand that you got a little Southern hospitality the other night. You just found out that in the game against Trenton, you received a 5th ball and no one knew it from the umpire?
I guess so. I mean, I just, I didn't even know about it either until about, 20 minutes ago, but I'll take the hit. That's fine with me.
When you're at the plate, are you that locked in? I mean, are you always aware of the count? Is it one of those things you're paying attention to strikes? I mean, what's going through your mind when you're staring down a pitcher?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely aware of the count, that's for sure, but, sometimes you can just get so locked in that you're just, fouling a few balls off here and there, just, trying to fight with the guy, battle any way to get on base. So yeah, it was surprising. I didn't know that it was 5 balls either, but you know, just anything to get on base in that situation.
You play a lot of games of baseball. Sometimes the mind can get a little flighty.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so now I have to ask the follow-up. If the umpire made a mistake, have you ever had an embarrassing on-the-field moment? Have you ever forgotten maybe the outs and flipped the ball to a kid in the crowd or anything like that? Got a good story for us?
Nothing that jumps out to me. I mean, I might have took a few steps in towards the dugout when there was 2 outs, you know, and I had to backpedal a few steps, but just nothing too crazy.
I'm not surprised you don't have an answer because he's a true professional. Steven, you got the call up here June 30th. You've been red hot, 19-game hitting streak. You're batting over 300. An adjustment to Double-A is sometimes very tough. You've made it look very smooth. What's been the big key? What's been part of your transition?
You know, I just think slowing the game down. You know, as you know, we move up. Obviously, you've heard that it's, you know, it's a bit of a jump from high A to Double-A, and you know, just trying to make that transition, just trying to slow the game down, stay within myself. You know, I've been playing this game for a long time. It's the same game, but obviously you do have to make some adjustments, and you know, that's what I've been able to do so far.
I've watched you a little bit. Your strengths of your game are your speed. Play the outfield really well. Now, an outfielder with speed. Growing up, was there a certain outfielder, a certain Major League Baseball player, maybe studied or crafted your game after?
You know, not too much. I just tried to be the best me that I could be. So you know, just trying to understand, you know, my strengths and play to those as much as possible.
Now, you cover a lot of ground there at the diamond. It's a little bit different. We all know that it's built backwards, so sometimes there's an occasional moment or two where the sunlight is right in your face. What's been the big adjustment playing defensively here in Richmond?
Yeah, anytime we get 6 o'clock starts, it's a little tough for the first few innings. But you know, we got a great outfield. You know, with Hunter in left and you know Moncrief, or Hunter in right, and you know Moncrief out there. You throw 40 out there, Horn out there. You know, we're a pretty good group defensively, and you know we stay communicating with each other. A
lot of ground to cover it, and you do it quite well. I always like to know, especially for guys who are getting called up, what's your first reaction when you're hearing that you're going to be a Squirrel?
Well, it's it was exciting.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, you know, you come in after the game, and you know the manager in San Jose pulled us aside and was like, "Hey, you know, congratulations, you guys are going to Richmond," and you know, it's just a definitely an exciting moment to know that you know a lot of the hard work early on and the little success that you've had in high A is paying off, and you know, just to get an opportunity to play at the next level is pretty exciting.
A lot of exciting with this guy because not only one time #1 on the top 10 Sports Center, saw that on the internet. Also, right now doing real well here at Double-A. And Steven is going to hang around with us and come back on the field with Jay Burnham, and we're going to find out how to steal a base right here on the set of Flying Squirrels Insider.
Opening day 2014, can you take us back to that night in New Britain?
Yeah, I'll never forget it. It was definitely a turning point for me. Just a routine play, nothing out of the ordinary, a throw from the outfield. And when I tell people about it, they assume that there was collision at home plate or something. But no, just ball took me up the line a little bit, and my spikes got cut in the grass, and the rest is history. Just a little tweak of the knee, and I tore my ACL.
What was the rehab process like for you?
6 months is kind of the baseline for a guy like me playing baseball. The main thing is gaining strength back in the quad, because when you get surgery on your knee, the joint swells a little bit, and that fluid in there shuts down your quadricep muscles, and it takes some time to build that back up.
And you were saying before, it's not so much the physical aspect of it, it's the mental aspect of it that you really have to get yourself back in tune with where you were before the injury.
Right, that's where the rehab is vital. You have to build that confidence slowly, pushing it a little bit more each and every week, so to speak, and you start baby steps to just body weight things, and then you add weight, and start running, and over time you build that confidence, but it takes some time.
I think balance is really important, balance and coordination. And a lot of time the coaches and the trainers will focus on strength training, on endurance, but they kind of forget the balance part of it, and we kind of focus on that and say like, hey, this is really important, and that helps a lot. I think that helps a lot to prevent further injuries. some sports like baseball, is mainly we see shoulder injuries, and it's not always that something is torn, ligament injuries. It's more of overuse and fatigue. And a lot of time these high school kids will present to us with shoulder pain, and you have to do a thorough history and examination, sit with them and examine them, and most time what you see, they have so much fatigue of their shoulder muscles, all the periscapral muscles that, you know, when you examine them, their one part of the shoulder is almost drooping down.
If you couldn't tell by now, we like having a lot of fun here at the ballpark. A lot of times that fun crosses over into community involvement or even commemoration. This past week, the Flying Squirrels paid tribute to the greatest of all time, legendary boxer Muhammad Ali. The Flying Squirrels, in their first of 2 tribute nights, wore commemorative jerseys with a butterfly and bee logo on the front and boxing gloves on the back. Now, I know what you're thinking. This might just be another wacky minor league promotion to try and draw attention. I can tell you that's not the case. The Flying Squirrels' connection to the boxing world starts right at the top.
Lou DiBella, our president managing partner, is actually one of the most famous boxing promoters in the world. Lou also had a personal relationship with Muhammad Ali. So at the death of Muhammad Ali, we just started connecting the dots, as we always try to do, to see how we could do something here in Richmond to honor and commemorate not only the legacy of Muhammad Ali, but also the relationship that our organization through Lou has with the greatest of all time. So that's kind of how this all happened, the bee and the butterfly on the jersey and the boxing gloves on the back. The final dot, which is probably the most important dot, was the VCU Medical Center and the Parkinson and Moving Disorder Center at VCU, because the money that we raise through the jersey, can then go to the Parkinson and Movement Disorder Center at the VCU Medical Center.
You wouldn't believe how much fun those giant boxing gloves really are. And Greg, all kidding aside, Muhammad Ali, obviously an icon in our culture and not only America, but also throughout the entire world. 2 dates the Flying Squirrels chose to honor him, one being the previous date, the first one that we hosted, 20th anniversary of him lighting the Olympic cauldron.
It was a big moment, and it was a promotion that was started by Todd Parnell. He came up with it late one night and started bouncing the idea around to some of us in the front office. What do you think? And we all loved it. And when you see the jerseys, they look really, really sharp. I wish they would wear them more often. The second date, the final date on September 1st, as Jay pointed out to me, against the Hartford Yard Goats. And the reason being GOAT. Greatest of all time. That's what Muhammad was.
Yeah, that one slips by you at times. Yeah, the greatest of all time indeed. And we're looking forward to that night coming up at the Diamond September 1st. Coming up here on FSI, more with Stephen Duggar as he shows us how to get a good lead from first base. Back here on FSI Field as promised with base stealing member extraordinaire. It is Stephen Duggar. I'm Jay Burnham. I'm going to act as the all-star lefty in this scenario. And Stephen, first things first, when you're over at first base, when are you going to steal? I mean, I feel like you have the ability to steal at any given time.
Yeah. You want to pick and choose your counts. Obviously, you know, you're getting a read from our first base coach on kind of what the time is, maybe if it's 1-4, 1-3, so you have an idea of when to go. And
that's how fast the pitcher is throwing to the plate?
Yes.
Okay, so what are you looking for from me if I'm a left-handed pitcher and you're going to steal, say, on first move when I'm going to the plate?
Yeah, so first I just want to be able to get into a good primary lead, so I'll get out here and then I'll just kind of stay relaxed, and then you know, I'm looking at that front foot.
My right foot.
Yep. So as soon as you pick it up, if we're going first movement, I'll take off and go to second.
That could be pretty risky because if I pick up my foot and you go to second, and I can still throw over to first.
Yeah, it's more, you know, that's part of it. You know, you just kind of trial and error.
So you've got the primary lead. Can you tell us a little bit about what the secondary lead is and what you're trying to accomplish there?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, if we're not going, you still want to get a good secondary lead.
Right.
Just in case, you know. Obviously, if the guy puts it in play, you want to still have a chance to get to second. But, you know, when you go up, I just kind of sit, and then I want to be able to get two good steps in and, you know, read what the hitter does after that.
And the key is for the secondary lead, because you don't want to get picked off.
Right.
You're waiting for for what now?
I'm just sitting over here, and I want to make sure that, for one, I'm not getting picked off,
Right.
and for two, I'm still giving myself a chance to get to second base.
So as the pitcher essentially commits to the plate,
I go into my secondary, and if I'm reading ball in the dirt, if it kicks away or something like that, I can get to second. Or obviously, if I can read what the hitter does.
and I feel like you have the green light to steal, essentially, right?
I do.
All right.
Majority of the time.
Thanks for being here today. Hopefully, you got a few more stolen bases in you at the end of the season. That'll do it for us here on FSI. Our thanks to Stephen Duggar, Wes McElroy, my broadcast partner, Greg Caserta. Until next time, our final show coming up in 2 weeks. I'm Jay Burnham saying so long, and hey, good night, everybody.
Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by
Smell gas? Act fast. Don't just stand there. Leave the area. Get out. Go where the smell is no longer present and call 911. Making you aware, keeping you safe. We're Richmond's Natural Gas Safety Awareness Program.
and by SciComm Technologies, celebrating 20 years in IT. SciComm is dedicated to helping customers stay on top of the tech wave, whatever comes next. Online at scicommtech.com.